Good morning again. I think the time has come, enough dilly-dallying, umming and ahhing. I need to crack on and start building a Helix so I can find a permanent home under the layout for some of this coaching stock. Well, thank you for all your feedback and ideas and thoughts around getting a connection from the branch line to the main line. I have in the end gone for this area here with the two curved points. It's simpler and easier to install. As you can see, I'm just testing it. Ignore the incorrect train on there, but I just wanted to make sure it was running okay. I may at some point go back to that other area and put a three-way point in, but it did seem like a lot of work and a lot of disruption when this will suffice for now. Right, I've started working on clearing this area out. It never ceases to amaze me how many times you tidy up, you still end up with loads of clutter. So I've moved all the boxes that were the full railway train sets from old. They're all gone. I've worked out, in terms of this incline here, I'm going to need to cut it back to that mark. Obviously it's all fastened and the track's on, so I don't know whether I can cut it in situ. It's a big chunk of wood, but I will give it a go. But that'll mean then the distance is 1100 from the inner side of that post to the far one. So I reckon, because it's going to be curved, obviously doing a Helix, it's going to be round, I'm going to be able to manoeuvre it in, even though it's a 1200 diameter. Or in my mind, I'm going to be able to do that. This middle leg, this really thin one, it's only a piece of 2x1. I put it in there for a bit of extra bracing. That's going to have to come out, and it could maybe go back in, but it be in the centre of the Helix, which would be a bit of a pain. Or I might just have to look at another way of strengthening that little patch. Right, so I've been doing a little bit more thinking about this Helix and getting it into position. So from this front post here with the green tape on to that one just in front of the suitcases, it's just over 1.2 meters. And then from that post over there to that other one with the green mark, that's 1.1. So if it's going to be a radius of 1.2, I think I'm going to be able to maneuver it in, slide it through that way, then pull it back. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to use this laser level, and then for just to mark on this one, that one, and this one here, get 11. I'm going to build a platform for it to sit on. I think that's going to be the easiest way for me, and then tie it into these uprights, which will help keep these straight as well. In terms of what I'm going to use for the Helix itself, I'm a little bit undecided. So when I went to visit the one that Bill had made, he's used 12mm ply. It's really sturdy, and he's only needed to use the threaded rod on the outside, so he's got a lot of access to it. Now I ain't got any 12mm ply, and obviously it's heavier. I've had this sheet. This is 6mm MDF. It's an 8x4 sheet. I've had this left over for a while when I did some panelling in the house, and I don't know whether I can get away with using this 6mm. It's going to need more support, and I've been looking. There's some available to buy that are made out of 6mm MDF. There's some others I've seen advertised which use 6mm birch ply because it's a bit stronger. So I've got this just sat here doing nothing. I'm just wondering whether I do try this, because I'll get 2 loops out of it. I just hope I don't live to regret it. Right, sorry if I'm out of breath. I've just managed to cut through this just using the handsaw, so I've gone up without disturbing anything there. I've just got to think, obviously from this it was supported an upright which supported the 2 joins in this small piece here, so I'm going to have to think about what I need to do there temporarily. Maybe just put a batten underneath to hold that, and then when I get the smaller piece in there. I'll probably think of a way to frame it up just to support it. Right, so I've got the board cut roughly in half as best I can. These are the factory edges, so they're perfectly square. So I'm going to work off those. I'm not too bothered if this bottom end's a bit rough, because obviously it's going to be cut into a circle. It's that strange old thing in the UK where these are actually 8 foot by 4 foot, so they're 1220 by 2440, not 2.4 by 1.2, so I've just got to allow for that little bit extra. What I'm going to do now is find the centre of each one, mark it, and I'm going to use that good old-fashioned string method to try and draw a circle, the outer, what's going to be the outer edge and then the inner edge, and we'll go from there. Alright, so I found the centre of each board. I did the old trick, tapped a nail in, got some string to the right length and tried to draw a circle with it. It's on the other side of this. I'm not going to show you it. I think my granddaughter could have done a better job freehand. That really didn't work. So my next plan of attack is, I've got my long metal rule, which has a hanging hole at the top to hang it on the wall. So I've drilled another hole, a smaller one, a 4mm, and this is a 4mm bolt. So that's quite a nice snug fit. There's no lateral movement in there. So then I've drilled this hole out to 4mm as well. So I'm going to put that through there, loosely fix a bolt to the back, and then hopefully I'll get a much neater circle. Couple of attempts to get it right. So what I'm looking at, there's the outer line. That one, ignore, that's the inner one now. And they're the track centres for 3rd radius, 4th radius. So I think that will work. I've just gone around, and before I cut it, I've just drawn a perpendicular line there. I've done it at every quarter really. So that, obviously there's going to be a join from one level to the next. Well, I know they're going to be true, those lines, if I do them now before I cut the oval out. So I'll get the other board done. I know that's only 2 levels, and I've got to think about really how I'm going to cut these. I mean, as we know, MDF's messy stuff, terrible particles, so obviously I'll do it outside. Now, I suppose the obvious way would be jigsaw. I don't know whether there's a way to clamp both boards together. I don't know if that'll work. Or the other one is to use the router. Now, when I did this turntable over there, because it was put in after the baseboards were down, I used a router. I fixed it up, found the centre point, made it like a brace for it, and then just routed round carefully. I don't know whether to do the same with this. I don't know if that'll work. Now, I did say I've only got 2 of these so far, so that's 2 loops. I'm thinking in my head 4 actually, but I'm just going to try it with 2 first, because I've already got this part of an incline, which I'm going to class as 1, the way it goes. Those 2 have met 3, and then when it comes out right through there and down towards the suitcases, I think I could get another, class that as 4 as it goes. It's long enough that way to get it down to hopefully the depth I require. If it don't work, it's just a case of getting some more. But I'm hoping that might just be enough. So in terms of cutting these, I'm going to try and do them both in one. I'm going to try and attach them together around the outside, clamp them as best I can. I'm going to create a jig for me old Black & Decker jigsaw. I've just ordered these fit. It's like 30-year-old jigsaw corded one, but it works. But when I've read up about cutting MDF, they reckon to use some bimetal blades. They're not as harsh, so it shouldn't rip it. So I'm going to attempt to clamp them together, create a jig, cut them both in one go. Right, so I'm just having a look at a homemade jig to try and cut these circles. I could do it freehand with a jigsaw, but I don't know how neat that will be. So I looked on Amazon, you can buy some jigs, but they're like 20-25 quid, and I can't find one that's long enough. There was one on that Temu site, but I do a bit dubious about the quality, so I thought I'll try and make one. What can possibly go wrong? You've obviously seen my woodworking skills. So my plan is, I've got a centre line along here, which I'm going to drill and use some dowels. A dowel, if I was going to use it loads of times, I'd do loads of different ones, but I'm going to have a dowel there, which will then go through the boards I'm going to cut. I've centred that so the blade is on this centre line. I've just glued some blocks really tightly around this, so when that's dried I'll pin them as well. Then I'll cut out, use a drill and drill a big hole there. Then hopefully I'll work out the distance, the radius, and give it a whirl. Right, that's the jig ready to go, I think. The only thing I've got to do now, I've marked, I don't know if you can see this side, 610mm, which is the outer edge, and then 470, which is the inner. So I think I'm going to use wooden dowels. I've got some. I'll drill through a hole for a wooden dowel there, and then I've already got the centre on these boards there, so I'll put the dowel through there, clamp them together as best I can, and go for it. I'm going to cut them outside, obviously, but it's drizzling at the minute, so obviously it's not very good water in MDF, so I'm probably going to have to wait till the weather fares up a little bit before I can get them done. Well, this wasn't part of the plan. I was supposed to be cutting these boards outside, but it's snowing out there, so I can't do it outside because it's covered. Both cars are away in the garage. I can't really bother to get them out, so I've done a bit of rearranging up here in the train room, and this is the only spot I can find where these boards fit. Not ideal because of the dust it's going to create, but I'm going to try and attach the hoover to the jigsaw and see how we get on. Well, I had to quickly remake a jig. For some reason, I'd done this one all wrong. The jigsaw wasn't perpendicular that way, so it just wouldn't cut. It was dragging and bending the blade. So I quickly redone another one, super glued it to speed it up. Now let's just see if it'll work. Seems to be getting a neat enough cut going. Slow progress, so I'll not let you suffer the pain of me doing all this, but we'll come back when I've got the outer one done. Well, I'm not going to lie, it's taken a while this. I took the jig off in the end because as soon as the blade starts to veer off, it's hard to get it back when it's in a jig. So I'm doing it freehand. It's obviously not quite as neat, but it's not supposed to be aesthetically pleasing, this. It's just to be able to get the track from one level to another. So I am using a fine blade, and it is doing a good job of not ripping the bottom layer underneath, but it does take longer, that's all. But I shall persevere and get it done. Right, so that's it cut. That was ridiculous trying to do it in here. So I had to prop it up to lift it off the carpet. But then the blade was too long and it was catching on the carpet, so I had to put some chipboard, as you can see, underneath to higher it, which was great, but then the blade caught onto that as it approached it. So not a very sensible way of doing it. but it's cut. So 2 rings there now. Obviously I've clamped them loosely because I need them to stay in the same position for now, but yeah, give it a bit of a sand and see where we go from there. There we go, 2 levels done. The amount of MDF dust is ridiculous. I dread to think where it's landed and settled on top of the layout. I did use the hoover as best I can to keep on top of it, but it'll just be a case of going around and cleaning up. So that has took quite some doing. A lot of effort there. I take my hat off to Bill and his Helix, because I think he did 4 loops. I just pray that I don't need more than these 2, but only time will tell. Right, I've just replaced these spring clamps with my good old-fashioned screw ones. I know all these modern ones are quick and what have you, but I still think there's nothing better than these for getting a really tight grip. I need these to be perfectly held together, because what I'm going to do is put some supports under now and start to drill the holes with a threaded rod. I know it probably looks like there's quite a bit of waste doing it this way. So I've got 2 big circles there, but I do need to cut a 1/4 turn, because obviously it needs to go 90 degrees from this way to that. So I'll be able to get a 90-degree out of there. Bit more mess again to create, but it saves wasting it all. So what have I learned from doing that is don't try and cut MDF inside. We know how messy it is, and certainly don't try and cut it in the most ridiculous tiny space where you can't swing a cat. As you can see, the mess I've had to make, just moving stuff around just to create a bit. So I'm going to have to spend a bit of time trying to tidy up again now. So I'm probably going to leave it there for this week. I think things I'm going to be working on are obviously marking out and drilling now for the threaded bar. I've got the length of threaded bar, they're just going to need cutting to size. Then I'll start to try and work out what the gradient looks like and clearance underneath. Start working on a frame for it to sit on, and then hopefully just get it married up to the existing incline and work out the exit as well.